Tonight, weighing their options, Blueberry River First Nation says they may appeal the judicial review. Flurry of new warnings, 4 more possible measles exposures in Fort St. John, and winter's coming. BC paramedics warn of more hospital diversions. Well, good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with more reaction from Monday's federal court decision in the case involving 4 councillors of the Blueberry River First Nations. The judge in the case ruling in favor of the Absassin family and elders group, and now the First Nation says it's considering appealing the judge's decision. Clarence and Joe Absassin say they hope the decision will result in positive changes for the community. They say the illegal ongoing actions by the 4 councillors are contrast to the nation's laws and customs and are anti-democratic. And they add, concerns were raised many times at council meetings but were ignored. The Absassins say bringing the councillors to court was a last resort. The ruling shows the need for immediate political change. Clarence Absassin says Councillor Shelley Gauthier will be replaced as the Absassin family representative. He says the other 3 councillors can continue to represent their respective families, but won't be able to run in the next by-election. Clarence adds there won't be a by-election until a system reflecting what members of the First Nation want is in place. But the First Nation says the election for chief and council will go ahead as planned in January. The nation adds the 4 councillors in question are free to run for council, despite what the Absassins have said. The First Nation says the judicial review was not supported by all of the Absassin family members. Blueberry River says during the period in question, there was no band manager running the First Nation, and they add now that a manager has been hired, they will organize meetings and take minutes. While the judge ruled councillors made an important decision without consulting members, the First Nation says council does inform members of the major decisions and will continue to do so. The nation also adds that council holds member meetings twice a month and holds quarterly band general meetings as required. Well, a flurry of possible measles exposures in the Peace region continues. The BC Centre for Disease Control is warning residents in Fort St. John about another 4 exposures. The BC CDC says if you are at Olympus Cards and Collectibles on November 12th from 5 to 10 p.m., you may have been exposed to the virus. On November 14th, there were 3 more possible exposures. The first at Walmart from 5:30 to 8 p.m., the second at the North Peace Leisure Pool, and finally at the Fort St. John Emergency Department. Northeast BC has seen close to 80% of all cases in BC this year. Health officials say misinformation is being spread online about the vaccine and is contributing to that rise in cases. Well, paramedics in BC are sounding the alarm over what they say is an expected increase in the number of hospital diversions. The BC Ambulance Paramedics Union says with winter right around the corner, British Columbians can expect more emergency room closures. The union's raising concerns about the pressure its members are under during those diversions. There have been more than 250 separate hospital and emergency room closures across the province this year alone, and the union says their members are being asked to fill gaps across the system that continue to widen. As a result of the closures, ambulance paramedics are often the only accessible healthcare providers left. It often happens during severe weather, long transport dispatches, and record call volumes. In the interim, the union is encouraging people to be prepared as the winter storm season approaches. If your local hospital has had closures in the past, you are being encouraged to have a plan. The union has been in contract negotiations with the province at mid-September, and it's calling on the government to ensure paramedics are properly supported. In an effort to improve public safety, the province conducting a BC-wide test of its emergency alert system this afternoon. That's the sound British Columbians heard today at 2:55 this afternoon. The alert was broadcast across the province on most smartphones, TVs, and radios. The system has been used in the past for wildfires, earthquakes, and amber alerts. The message was clearly labeled as a test alert in an effort not to alarm British Columbians. Well, police in Prince George have evacuated several homes after an explosive device was found while executing a drug-related search warrant. A bomb squad from the Lower Mainland is on its way to Prince George after police discovered the device in the 1600 block of 8th Avenue. There are no further details on the discovery and the evacuations. Police do say the investigation related to the search warrant is ongoing and the searches will resume as soon as the explosive device is dealt with. A loaded freight barge on its way to Alaska has started taking on water near Bella Bella. The Canadian Coast Guard could not confirm what was being transported in the hundreds of shipping containers on the American vessel, but they say there's been no reports of pollution. The Heiltsuk First Nations Marine Response Team has been monitoring the barge for any environmental impacts. The response team plans on surrounding it with a precautionary containment boom. They believe the vessel may have struck ground and say the strategy now is to get it into a safe harbor. Well, Liberal cabinet members are responding today after reports that Ottawa is close to reaching a deal on an oil pipeline to BC's north coast.
I've seen a spirit of cooperation like this in a long time, and I think it's very positive. Canada's very united right now.
You've heard the Prime Minister, you've heard Minister LeBlanc say a number of times publicly that for any projects to materialize, those projects will have to be made with the accord, the agreement of provinces.
Alberta has long sought a pipeline to the west coast in spite of opposition in this province to any move to overturn the current federal ban on oil tankers. However, one Liberal MP from BC says there'll be no pipeline without the consent of the province and First Nations. Now, some welcome news for BC businesses as the province announces new measures to enhance interprovincial trade. BC's Minister of Economic Growth was in Victoria today for the announcement of the Canadian Mutual Recognition Agreement.
We are creating one agreement, one market, and unlimited opportunity across the country. This means stronger BC economy and more jobs across industry. We're talking billions in unlocked potential. Research shows that removal of internal trade barriers through mutual recognition could boost Canada's GDP by up to $200 billion.
The deal looks to remove regulatory barriers to the free movement of goods across provinces and territories in the face of economic threats from the United States. The agreement, which is decades in the making, will allow local businesses to expand their reach throughout the country without having to add labels, approvals, or testing. With BC sitting as the lead chair, the agreement will fall under the Canadian Free Trade Reconciliation process and is touted as the largest red tape reduction in Canadian history. A lot of criticism in Alberta today over the province's decision to invoke the notwithstanding clause to block court challenges on 3 transgender policy bills. This is the second time in only a month the Danielle Smith's government has used it as a tool, as critics say, to simply shrug off people's constitutional rights and freedoms. Kathy Lee in Calgary now on the controversial move and the debate that it's ignited.
People in the transgender community and their supporters are devastated by the government invoking the notwithstanding clause to get around any infringements of charter rights. This is all part of Bill 9, which bans hormone therapy for kids under 16 and gender-affirming surgery for those under 18, requires parental consent for pronoun changes in school, opt-in only sexual health classes, and blocks trans athletes over 12 years old from competing in female sport, requiring proof of gender at birth.
The goal of this bill is less transgender people. Seeing my government target such a small amount of our provincial population is absolutely appalling when truly we're just trying to live our lives in our own peace and in our own lane.
The province says it is unapologetically defending parents and children with the decision. This is the second time in this fall session the UCP government has invoked the notwithstanding clause. Just weeks ago, it was used to force the end of the teachers' strike.
What's more important, too, are the broader implications of this. Once you can violate the freedoms, rights, fundamental rights and freedoms of one group, it's a slippery slope to going to the next group that you don't like or that you think might make you more politically popular with some in your party. 2
of the 3 bills are facing court challenges, and a group called Queer Citizens United will be holding a rally in Calgary tomorrow afternoon.
Valley View RCMP say 2 women in Alberta's Peace region are facing charges after hundreds of animals were found in distress at a pair of rescues. In late October, RCMP executed search warrants at Woods Animal Rescue in Marie Rain and the MD of Smoky River. Mounties say they found more than 300 animals in varying states of distress. Police say many of them needed veterinary care and lacked humane living conditions. 69-year-old Cheryl Woods and 67-year-old Cheryl Bastian are now facing Criminal and Animal Protection Act charges. They're both accused of causing unnecessary suffering, the willful neglect of animals, and permitting animals to be in distress. Well, there's some fallout from Monday's federal budget vote, which saw an election avoided by the narrowest of margins. Now a Conservative MP from Alberta who missed the vote is receiving angry messages on social media. Some are calling Alberta MP Shannon Stubbs a traitor. The budget passed by just 2 votes, allowing the minority Liberal government to stay in power. Well, a statement that she posted on social media says she missed the vote because she was undergoing jaw and chin surgery as a result of a significant medical condition that she's had since birth. Federal workers are still waiting for word on which jobs will be cut as a result of the new budget.
We haven't heard any new information. The budget just passed. We expect that our members would be notified by their managers shortly.
The government plans to reduce the size of the federal public service by 28,000 jobs by the year 2029. It's all part of the budget's plan to find $60 billion in savings over the next 5 years. Well, are you still buying Canadian? Some shoppers across the country are reportedly shifting away from the trend.
I'm paying less attention to it, yeah, overall, yeah. I mean, we gotta like save our dollars, right? It's like the price of stuff is crazy.
What if you have 2 products side by side and the American one's cheaper?
We buy the Canadian one.
The CEO of Loblaw told investors last week, quote, "Prices on direct imported products from the United States have gone back down to normal, and of course, we are seeing some customers who are going back to those products," unquote. Well, an extraordinary media briefing in Washington, D.C. today involving the RCMP, the FBI, and the Department of Justice. They're on the hunt for Ryan Wedding, the one-time Canadian Olympic snowboarder now on the FBI's most wanted list. He's being described as a modern-day Pablo Escobar, dangerous, deadly, and responsible for major narcotics trafficking and terror program. CTV's Michael Couture on the new charges, the hunt for the fugitive who allegedly ordered a murder of a witness, and the big reward.
The reward for Wedding's arrest has been upped to $15 million American, a significant amount for someone that law enforcement says is a major drug kingpin.
Ryan Wedding is a modern-day iteration of Pablo Escobar.
Law enforcement in Canada and the U.S. are calling the former Canadian Olympic snowboarder the leader of a transnational criminal enterprise. In addition to reportedly shipping truckloads of cocaine across North America, the FBI and U.S. Justice Department are now charging Ryan Wedding with 2 additional counts of witness tampering, intimidation, and money laundering.
Wedding is also accused of murdering a federal witness after he was indicted in 2024.
U.S. officials allege Wedding used semi-trucks to import 60 tons of cocaine annually into the U.S. That amount of drugs is the same weight as 40 standard cars.
Ryan Wedding is extremely dangerous. He's extremely violent, and he's extremely wealthy. He's being protected by the Sinaloa cartel, along with others in the country of Mexico.
American law enforcement has been working with the RCMP because of his links to Canada and his alleged connection to 4 murders in Ontario. It's believed his vast network includes a former Mexican law enforcement officer and money launderers from Italy and the UK.
Fugitive Ryan Wedding remains one of the top threats to Canadian public safety, and as per the previous indictment, continues to run an over $1 billion a year criminal enterprise.
While increasing the reward for his arrest to $15 million, U.S. law enforcement is asking for the public's help to find Wedding.
Please understand that he might change his hair color, his appearance, and do anything to avoid capture, but someone like Ryan Wedding is going to stick out in Mexico.
With today's indictment, U.S. law enforcement says approximately 36 people have been indicted, and they warn Ryan Wedding that his days are numbered. Mike Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Well, back here at home, the Stock Our Slate Christmas food drive in Dawson Creek wrapping up, and after 5 days of collecting donation, organizers say this year's food drive was record-breaking. They say around 14,000 pounds of food was collected, and food donations are divided between St. Mark's Food Bank and Networks Ministry. Dina Batt with the St. Mark's says words cannot explain how grateful she is for all of the generosity from the community. She said financial donations are still being tallied, but around $12,000 has been counted so far. Batt says Each donation will make a huge difference as we approach Christmas. Organizers are thanking every volunteer and donor for making the food drive what they call a major success. All right, please do stay tuned. Noah will be right back after the break with weather.